The very heart of Kenya's national events is paralyzed, and the bill for decades of neglect has finally come due. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host. The iconic Kenyatta International Convention Center, our KICC, is closed indefinitely. This isn't a minor renovation. It's a full-scale emergency shutdown ordered by the government itself. The reason? A damning structural audit has declared the 50-year-old landmark unsafe for human occupancy. This is not just about a building. It's about national pride, economic stability, and a stark warning for our entire infrastructure. Tonight, we dive deep into the crisis at KICC. We'll explore its shocking condition, the immediate fallout, and what this means for every Kenyan. Stay with us. To understand the gravity of this moment, we must go back. The KICC isn't just any building. It was conceived in the late 1960s as a symbol of a bold, independent Kenya. Designed by the Norwegian architect Carl Henrik Nørstvik and completed in 1974, its distinctive cylindrical tower and amphitheater shape have dominated the Nairobi skyline for half a century. It has hosted pivotal moments in our history, from major international conferences to political gatherings. It's where our presidents have been inaugurated. It's been the backdrop for countless national celebrations. For decades, it was managed by the Kenya Tourist Development Corporation, then later by the Ministry of Tourism. But its management has often been tangled in bureaucracy. Maintenance was reactive, not proactive. A patch-up job here, a quick fix there. Experts have whispered about its aging state for years. The last major refurbishment was over a decade ago. The building has been weathering silently. The concrete aging, the systems failing. The key players now are the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, which owns the facility, the National Construction Authority, which conducted the audit, and the private events companies whose livelihoods just evaporated. The timeline is brutal. The audit began quietly months ago. The preliminary findings were so alarming that the full report was fast-tracked. And just this week, the directive came down: evacuate, seal the doors. This is a historical pattern repeating. We've seen it with other public assets. Neglect, then crisis, then a costly emergency intervention. KICC is the latest and loudest alarm bell. Now, let's get into the core facts. What did that audit actually find? The details are terrifying. The National Construction Authority's report cites severe structural deficiencies. The concrete in the main tower and support columns shows advanced carbonation and spalling. That's technical jargon for the concrete decaying, losing its strength, and literally crumbling. Reinforcement steel is exposed and corroding in multiple critical areas. The building's foundational integrity is now in question. But it's not just the bones. The electrical systems are a fire hazard with outdated wiring that doesn't meet modern codes. The plumbing is corroded, risking major leaks and water damage. The air conditioning and ventilation systems are original, or close to it, and are completely inefficient and potentially hazardous. The audit team found water infiltration in the roof and walls, which has accelerated the decay. They've given the building a conditional stability rating, which in engineering terms is a polite way of saying it's on the brink. The official statement from Tourism Minister Alfred Mutua was stark. He said, "The safety of Kenyans and visitors is paramount. We cannot risk a disaster. The KICC will remain closed until a comprehensive restoration is completed." No timeline was given. The numbers tell the story. The building is 50 years old. It hosts over 200 major events annually. It contributes an estimated 5 billion shillings directly and indirectly to the national economy every year. That revenue stream is now zero. Overnight, expert analysis is unanimous. Engineer Mumbai Gachego, a structural integrity specialist we spoke to, put it plainly. This was predictable and preventable. Concrete has a lifespan. It needs monitoring, testing, and proactive repair. The signs of spalling and corrosion don't appear overnight. They develop over years. This audit reveals a catastrophic failure of maintenance. The building is, quite simply, a danger. But this story has multiple, clashing perspectives. The government's position is one of necessary, if painful, responsibility. They argue that closing it was the only moral choice. However, opposition figures and industry insiders are asking tough questions. Where was the maintenance budget? Why were warnings ignored? Nominated MP John Kyrie, a member of the Parliamentary Committee on Tourism, has called for a forensic audit. "This isn't an act of God," he said. "This is an act of negligence. We must hold someone accountable for the loss of national revenue and pride." The private sector is furious. Event planners, caterers, audio-visual companies, and security firms that relied entirely on KICC are facing ruin. Jane Mwangi, CEO of a major event management company, told us, "This is my entire business. Bookings canceled for the next 2 years. My staff have families. The government gave us no warning, no phased plan." It's an economic massacre for our industry. Internationally, the reaction is one of shock and repositioning. The African Union, the United Nations, and major multinational corporations have all used KICC as their Nairobi hub. They are now scrambling to find alternatives, with many looking at facilities in Addis Ababa or Kigali. This threatens Kenya's position as Africa's premier conference destination. The deeper implication is a crisis of confidence. If we cannot maintain our most iconic building, what does that say about our bridges, our hospitals, our schools? This is a profound indictment of our national approach to public asset management. It suggests a culture of using things until they break, rather than preserving them for the future. Now, let's talk about the real human impact. This isn't just about politicians and engineers. This is about ordinary Kenyans. First, the direct employees. Over 300 permanent and contract staff at KICC have been sent on compulsory leave. Their futures are uncertain. Then, the vast ecosystem around it. Think about the taxi drivers who parked outside, waiting for delegates, the street vendors selling souvenirs and snacks, the hotels in the city center that booked rooms for conference attendees, the printers who made banners and booklets, the florists, the musicians, the cleaners hired for events. Thousands of livelihoods from the formal to the informal sector have been severed instantly. Economically, Nairobi's central business district is feeling the chill. Foot traffic is down. Hotel occupancy rates are plummeting. The ripple effect is massive. Socially, it's a blow to our collective identity. Where do we gather for our biggest national events? The options are limited and lack the same symbolic weight. Politically, this is a hot potato. It exposes systemic failure and will become a rallying cry for opposition criticism. It raises urgent questions about other aging infrastructure. What's next? A long, complex, and astronomically expensive restoration. Initial estimates range from 8 to 12 billion shillings. The tender process will be scrutinized for corruption. The work could take 3 to 5 years. During that time, the economic void will remain. The government is talking about fast-tracking the renovation of the smaller Kasarani facilities, but they are not a replacement. The immediate future is one of loss, displacement, and a frantic search for alternatives. What are the experts saying beyond the structural report? We gathered insights from economists, historians, and urban planners. Economist Dr. Scholastica Odhiambo frames it as a massive fiscal policy failure. This is the cost of deferred maintenance, she says. Spending a few hundred million shillings annually on upkeep would have prevented this billion-shilling crisis. It's a classic case of being penny-wise and pound-foolish. The GDP impact, especially in the tourism and MICE sector, meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions, will be significant for years. Historian Professor Macharia Muneen compares it to the neglect of the railway system. We build monuments to our ambition but lack the culture to sustain them. KICC was a symbol of our modern arrival. Its decay is a metaphor. The restoration must be more than concrete. It must be a recommitment to stewardship. Urban planner Zipporah Jachenga points to a broader national issue. Nairobi's building audit is overdue. KICC is the canary in the coal mine. We have dozens of public and private buildings from the 70s and 80s in similar condition. This should trigger a citywide, if not nationwide, structural safety review. The next collapse cannot be of a school or a hospital. Predictions are grim. The restoration will be mired in delays and cost overruns. The events industry will suffer a permanent contraction, with some businesses relocating to other countries. Kenya's brand as a stable, modern destination is tarnished. The only positive forecast is that this disaster might finally force a paradigm shift in how we treat our national assets. So, what are the key takeaways? The KICC closure is a national emergency with deep economic and symbolic wounds. It was preventable. It highlights a catastrophic failure in maintenance and long-term planning. Watch for the restoration tender. It will be a test of transparency. Watch for the fate of the displaced workers and businesses. And watch for audits on other major public buildings. This story is far from over. The true cost will be counted in billions of shillings and in the lost trust of a nation. For continuous, in-depth coverage of this and all stories that shape Kenya, subscribe to Kenya News Update today for more breaking news.